Hey divas, welcome back to Women Unleashed, where our inner strength meets unapologetic confidence. This is week 31, and my name is Buki. We've been on this transformative journey for the past 31 weeks, exactly 8 months, but obviously with the break in between is about 9 months we've been on the journey, and it's been really incredible. In our 8 months, we'll be talking about influence and inspiration and living a life of legacy. Few weeks ago, week 29, we talked about becoming a role model. Over the past few months, we've been developing ourselves. Then this month we move into becoming a role model. And one of the key points that we mentioned a few weeks ago was that we should be the light that we once sought. We should be the inspiration we once needed others to be for us. And that's what it means to be a role model. There were things where we're growing or where we're trying to discover ourselves, get our feet together. There are things that we wish that people have told us, the things that people will have shown us. And now we should be that same person to show other people, and lead other people aright. Last week, we also talked about, developing our personal brand, and that is very important. And one of the key messages we talked about developing a personal brand and saying a woman of integrity, one of our brand, she'll be a person that is creditable, being credible, be truthful, be authentic, you're not trying to be to show a performance. You're not trying to to what's the word? You're not trying to make a new version of yourself. You're just trying to be more genuine. You're just trying to be genuine. You're trying to be real, and you're trying to put yourself out there. So lives can be affected. And an example is if you about branding. If you look at companies so like with MTN or Vodafone, when you see the color yellow anywhere, and even the word yellow, that's MTN. Is their trademark. Nobody can take that from them. Or Vodafone, even though there's so many companies reading red now. We've got Vitality, you've got Vodafone, you've got other companies using it. But when you see the logo on the red, if this is Vitality, if this is Vodafone, and you cannot just miss what, and what they stand for. They stand for integrity, they stand for truth. And that's what we want to be. That's the life we want to portray. That's what we want to be remembered for. Because also in this month, we're talking about inspiration, service, and living a life of legacy. So which brings us to our topic this week 31. Our topic this week is giving back and service. Yeah, the more we develop ourselves, we should be able to empty back into others. And that's one good quality of being a leader. We've talked about that over time. One of the quality of being a leader or being a woman of grace, a woman of integrity, a woman of grace and devotion is somebody that always gives back to the society. Want to give him back and service. And our key message is very profound. We said, purpose matures through service. Impact and influence deepen when purpose gives. I just need you to take 30 seconds to just let that sing. Let it sing. It says, purpose. Your purpose in life will mature through service. There's something that you're passionate about. We all have something that we're passionate. There's nobody that is created without a passion, There's something that you're passionate about. Is it about, speaking out for those, for the less privileged, speaking out for those that can't speak for themselves? Is it about, pollution that you're passionate about it? You're passionate about sharing knowledge. You're passionate and impacting the next generation. You're passionate about education. You're passionate about, there's so many things that over time we've discovered this is my purpose, this is my goal, this is what I am born to do, this is the life I'm supposed to live. But you know what, sweetheart, if we don't share it, if we keep it to ourselves, if we don't go out to express those things, we won't grow, and we will not be able to affect life. We'll not be able to affect our generation. Because it's one thing for us to discover what our purpose is. It is one thing for us to live it. But it's another thing for us to be able to save, for us to be able to give back, for us to be able to nurture, for us to be able to pour back into other people. And that's what we want to be practicing this week. If you've not been doing it, and there's no way, I believe as women of integrity, women of grace, these are things that we've been practicing silently, that we've been doing, consciously, unconsciously. But this week we want to put it in practice, consciously. We want to be able to give back. And one thing we always say is that we can never give from emptiness. We always give from overflow. So it's also important for us to keep nurturing ourselves, filling up ourselves so that we can continue to give. And you know what? A river that gives never runs dry, because there's always a source there in heaven that keeps filling you up. And there's always the other source where you go around to also learn, equip yourself, build up yourself so that you can empty up into other people, And if you look at the life of, the teachers, there's hardly a time you're going to ask a teacher for about a question, which is in your, maybe within the if you were like in your four from five, and you're asking the teacher about something from 4, from 5, that the teacher wouldn't be able to answer, because over time the teacher learns and relearn and pours into herself or himself, so he can give back, he can teach the student. But sometimes there are things that you're going to ask the teacher that he might not remember, he might not know what the answer is, and that's where true leadership comes from. The teacher goes back to it, to make inquiries, go back to do some research, and then come back, to share, and to, impact you again, impact the class of what it is that, he's been able to learn. And that's what giving back is about. We learn, we give back, we don't know it, we go back to refuel, we come back, we empty back into other people. And that's what we want to be doing. So that brings us to one of our other points. So just like I said, so some of our purpose that discussed might be supporting women, helping families, being a mentor to young people, advocating for well-being, education, and your community. But you don't need to do everything. Yes, some of us, we are well endowed. You can do 20 things at the same time and still achieve result. But some of us, we can only do 1 or 2 things at a time. So whatever it is that God has placed in your hands, whatever it is placed in your hands, is put in your part. Nurture it, share with people, give back, and use it to build the people around you. Don't try to compete. As women of grace, we do not compete. We compete with ourselves, not with other people, because we want to be better than what we were yesterday or the day before. We want to be better, every day. I said so. And then one of the other things I said, because we've talked about leadership, and then we said one thing about being a leader is that we always pour back into ourselves. And this brings me to one of my lovely colleagues. I love her to bits. I don't know if she's watching this, she might be watching it or might see it later in future. And there is no time you go to her for something. If she doesn't know that thing, she goes back to do a research, which is very humbling. And that is one of, if I was supposed to write about her, I would say that is one of her branding. She is humility personified. She doesn't know it. She will tell you, wow, actually, I've never thought about that or have never heard of it. I'm going to find out. She go do research. She'll make inquiry from other people. And when she gets the answers, she calls you back, explain to you, what the thing is about, and even call other people on the world to say, oh, this was something I learned. Bookie asked me, or so and so asked me this question, and this is something I learned, and this is even how to be able to record it, on EPR or things like that. And she shares, and there's no way she's going to run dry, because the more you teach people, the more you retain, the more you remember. And then the more the people are looking up to you. You keep refueling, you keep filling up yourself again. And that is an example of a woman that's developed her own brand. Well, like I said, humility personified. She's not perfect like everybody. If she was perfect, she'll be in heaven now, But that's how I see her. She's a humble person, always learning to learn, always learning to give, always ever ready to serve. And that is a woman of great value. That is one of the kind of people, we need to be looking up to, because there's a lot to learn from them. That's one great quality of being a leader. I said people may be inspired by what you say, but they are transformed by what you do. Just like the lady I was talking about, I'm transformed by what she does, because yeah, she shows it, in her kindness, in the way she serves, and in the way she works with people. Service builds credibility, which is what she does. Service builds trust. Service builds legacy. That's it. See, and importantly, service keeps you grounded. The more you serve, the more you be grounded. The more you teach, the more you pour back into other people. The more you stay focused to your own vision and your goals. The more you be able to develop. The more you be able to find your loopholes. The more you be able to brush up on your mistakes, and the better person you will be. So, sweetheart, as we go this week, I want you to think about these three things, which is in our worksheet, and I mentioned them out. I will just run through them. So we said three things we need, three messages we need to keep an eye this week. Identify where your heart is drawn to service. Your passion often points towards your impact. That is it. What is the thing you're passionate about? What do you like doing? You like to serve. You like to help the less privileged. You like to speak up for those who can't, defend themselves. You like to advocate. Think about what your passion is. Is it environment, animal killing? Is this something you are passionate about? It doesn't have to be big. It can just be something small and something that is your own niche. Secondly, take one step, intentional step. Do something tangible, something real, and something that benefits somebody else this week. About that, your passion, that's your purpose. And third, see service as leadership in action. Every act of giving giving strengthens your influence and deepens your purpose. So you've discovered it, you've decided this is something I love to do, this is how I want to serve humanity, and put it into action and serve somebody. Give back, and you will see that your joy indeed will be full. There's something about giving back. When you give back and you see the joy on the face of the people that you have emptied into, it gladdens your heart. When you have trained up a child, you have trained up a colleague, you have helped, a student, and you see the student excelling. The student will not be able to write a story without including you, even if she excludes you in her story. Heavens remembers, and your heart rejoices about the person you've been able to make. So, sweetheart, what are we waiting for? This week, go out, impact your world, strengthen your own base, refer what you need to refer, but bless somebody else this week. Bless somebody else this week. And like we always say, the sky is our starting point. Till I see you next week, have a lovely week. Love you.